alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Hello and welcome to Alive After Reading. I'm Tim Niederreiter, and with me tonight is Kathrin Hutson. Welcome to the show, Kathrin.
Thanks, Tim. I'm excited to be here.
Well, it's good to have another. It's always good to have a guest on, but it's also it's good to hear from another ghostwriter. Or I'm a former ghostwriter now, but there's a kind of kinship there. It's kind of It's fun to meet somebody who's done something something that is not many people do it, right? I mean, relatively speaking, anyway.
Right, not many people know about. Yeah, not many people know about it either. It's kind of a secret circle. I like it.
Yeah, but we kind of broke the usual form of the show. So tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and the sort of stuff you write.
Absolutely. I'm Kathrin Hutson. I write mostly dark fantasy and sci-fi, dystopian sci-fi, speculative thrillers. And I have been writing since 2000. Been writing professionally since 2015. And I am an indie author all the way. My books are available everywhere across the board. And on the other side of writing, like you said, Tim, I also ghostwrite fiction of pretty much every genre except romance. And I'm also a freelance editor, and I've been doing that since 2015 as well, with my own editing and indie publishing consulting business. So I do a whole bunch of stuff and wear a bunch of different hats, and I love it.
Oh, it sounds great. All very writing related. One thing I've got to add, though, is that it's like, as far as the genres you write under your own name, or I assume under your name or whatever pseudonym you're using for your own work, is under that those genres. It's like looking into a mirror of what I write, because I write high fantasy, and dystopian. Those are like the main genres I write. I'm doing a little space opera right now, but
so cool.
I might become a lot of space opera. But it's kind of weird. It's like, wow, there's a lot in common here. Okay.
I love it. That's great. We're starting off on the right foot, man. It's awesome.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, do any of the genres you write take precedence for you? I mean, over any of the other ones, the ones you write under your name.
Yeah. Well, I have more dark fantasy out now than I do. So my last book, Sleepwater Beat, was the dystopian sci-fi LGBT thriller, kind of like a whole bunch of stuff all put together. And that was kind of my first branch under my own name outside of dark fantasy. So I have right now the You Notice Children duology. That's 2 books, dark fantasy, my first 2 books, and my first bestseller, and that was all very cool. And then the Unclaimed trilogy, which I put out all 3 books last year. And fantasy has always been, my love, dark fantasy. Let me be specific. There is a difference. That's always been my love in terms of writing. It comes the easiest to me, and I just enjoy it so much. And the book that I'm writing now is the first in a new dark fantasy series, and I think it's actually the darkest thing I've ever written. And I'm so excited about it. So it's pretty intense and gruesome and just in there. So,
okay.
Yeah. I'm
so when you say dark fantasy, sorry.
No.
When you say dark fantasy, do you mean, you blend the horror with the fantasy, or is it just fantasy with a dark tone like Game of Thrones, something like that?
Yes.
Both.
Yes. So I prefer the dark fantasy as in blending horror with it. So it is I love the high epic fantasy and just really taking it into the darkest, most terrifying places or scenes or characters, or all of the above. that's where my heart really just belongs. It's where I live.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, my fantasy tends to be a little bit on the lighter side. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say high fantasy directly, but and I haven't released a whole lot of fantasy, honestly, except for these 6 novellas I did last fall. Nice. But I've written a bunch of it, but mostly it stays on the shelf at this point or in the trunk.
Oh yeah. I know what that's like.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't written a big, heavy, fat fantasy novel. That's kind of what I'm trying to do right now on the side while I continue my space opera series. But it's interesting to me to hear from another fantasy writer who's actually, it's very different, I think, because I do like some people have called my work kind of suspenseful at times, occasionally, or just plain weird, and actually more often. But but I think it's interesting to say that so the tone is a really important part for you, as well as the elements that are actually visceral or terrifying kind of thing.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I mean that doesn't mean that I'm writing book after book of just nonstop like heaviness.
Oh, for sure. I mean, nothing should be nonstop in a book, almost.
No,
right? Do you agree with that?
Not. Oh, of course. Otherwise, it diminishes the power of what's supposed to actually stand out, right? But I forgot the question I was answering.
I don't remember what I asked you.
All right,
terrible.
Sweet.
No, I asked you about the tone, and how you use it. I think something like that. Let's just go with that.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, so I do like the darker undertones of just extraordinarily flawed or conflicted characters throughout, and I think most of the time what I not so much intentionally, but I end up doing it anyways, is I pull my characters into the deepest, darkest pits that I can think of, for them to then crawl their way out of and see what happens at the end. Sometimes it works out, and sometimes it doesn't work out for the character. So yeah, so they just have to deal with it.
Yeah. Hopefully for the reader, though, every time, you got to get that done.
Right. Yeah. There's always a little bit of hope left at the end, because otherwise it's just depressing. But
yeah, I can't imagine reading a novel with no hope at the end. I guess I did read 1984. Anyway.
Yeah. I think of like almost all of I can't even think of his name. He wrote Fight Club.
Oh, Chuck Palahniuk.
Yeah. Thank you. All of his books always made me feel like that after reading
I haven't actued read any of his books. And the movie for Fight Club was a little softer of an ending. It wasn't that terrible. I mean, it was like the end of a... anyway, not to spoil that for the few people who've not seen it at this point.
Right. Yes. All of Palahniuk's books just left me feeling sick. Like, this was... What did I just...
spend my weekend
reading? I mean, yeah, too much.
Well, you did read more than one of them, Come on.
I did. What's wrong with me? I can't believe it. Yeah, I try not to do that. I try to leave it with either some kind of, like interest of not. Some of them are cliffhangers, but more or less like an open interpretation, right? That could be positive if the reader wants it to be.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. So kind of like, but hopefully, I mean, how ambiguous do you go with that? Let me just ask you that.
I would say I probably take it to like the 45% ambiguity. So
just to pick a number.
Yeah, I mean that it feels right. It feels right now.
Sure.
I think for the most part I hint enough to what may happen, or what may be resolved in the future for these characters, that I don't explicitly say anything. Obviously, those would be even more books. But I do try to leave it to this, just with the vein of hope still left, like point them in a direction. There's the path, and you're on your own.
Well, yeah. So there's a chance that could get out of this kind of thing.
Right.
Or there's a chance there could be an ending that's not the worst possible ending, kind of
right, or a chance that
or redemption,
life goes right. Well, I try to get so I try to put a little bit of redemption in there at the end, but then I say, hey, there may be a chance for the life to move on, for things to continue, even though they're incredibly different than they were when we started.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's a good way to put that. I should stop
Yeah.
trying to paraphrase what you mean.
No, it took me
it.
forever to get to those words, so it's fine.
So as far as what you're writing right now and editing right now, if that comes up, what sort of projects are you working on at the moment?
Oh boy. Okay. So writing right now. What's up?
You don't have to do ghostwriting, by the way. Don't necessarily include.
Well, I can't tell you that anyways.
Exactly. That's the rule, right?
Right. I can say I'm writing a super awesome, I'll just call it sci-fi, is what I'm writing right now, and it's fantastically fun. And it came with a brilliant outline, and this client is a phenomenal outliner, so I feel like he should maybe make that one of his side hustles on his own.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but so it makes my job writing this for him just incredibly fun. So I'm working on that currently. I actually write 2 to 3 books a month for my clients.
Wow.
So I'll be through that one fairly soon. And editing, I couldn't even begin to tell you how many manuscripts I'm in the process of editing right now. It's a lot. I have different timelines for different clients. I've got a romance and a post-apocalyptic thriller kind of thing, and some super high fantasy and some YA sci-fi. I mean, it's all over the place.
Oh yeah, no kidding. When do you sleep?
Yeah.
Sounds like you're a very busy person.
Yeah, I wake up at 3:30 every morning.
Wow.
Just so I can get the working time. I have a 2-year-old, so that's part of it.
Okay.
Yeah, and I do get a 4.5-hour block of time on the weekdays where I'm in my office working on whatever needs to be worked on, whether it's writing or editing. Most of it is writing, which I love so much. And then I write when she takes her nap, which is normally 2 to 3 hours every day. And then, I get sometimes 3 hours, most of the time. Yeah, 3 hours in the morning when I wake up at 3:30. And that, fits in my 50 to 60 hours a day, or a week, a day, I wish.
Oh boy, there aren't that many hours in a day.
I know. I'm trying to change that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to change it.
Need the time turner. Yeah.
I know. I do. Yeah, so I working on all this editing projects, and then for my own fiction, I am currently writing that darkest thing I think I've written, like I said, and that's that's the book is called Imlock Fractured, and it is the first book in a new dark fantasy trilogy, and I'm so very excited about it. It's so much fun.
Certainly sounds pretty cool, pretty scary too, I'd imagine.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, it starts off. I was so happy about this. The first chapter, everybody dies. So
well, there you go. Now that's a way to start a novel.
It is. I mean, everyone except for the main character, obviously.
Oh, okay.
But it's definitely a horror scene, and I'm in love with it. So I feel like it was one of the best decisions I ever made. It's very exciting. I've got 3 books planned for that so far in the series, and I'll be writing a prequel to it that's actually coming out in a multi-author box set in October. So that's very fun. I have too many things happening.
Oh, of course, yes. I feel like we probably barely scratched the surface given all the projects you ghostwrite and edit. But that's fine. That we can move on, because it does sound like I have another question for you, actually, and
man,
it is related, because it sounds like because like you said, you really love your work, your writing, your editing, all that stuff. And I mean, maybe it's just gonna take it down a notch. I've been doing that a lot lately, but I do suffer from depression and general anxiety disorder.
Mm-hmm.
But And I think, and I found it very recently, it's made it very difficult to actually get that enthusiastic about anything. And it's very
Yeah.
difficult to write when you're not enthused with your project, right? And I know I have
For
to,
sure. Right.
because this is what I'm trying to do as my job, you know.
Right.
Podcasting doesn't pay the bills, right? But it's tough, because I mean, I've also only had some pretty limited success with the books I've released, which is a little disappointing. But even though I feel like they're good books, I'm just not getting enough attention on them, I think. And I don't know, that's a tangent. What I'm trying to say is, do you do anything to stay enthusiastic about all the work? Because you do a lot of work. I really admire that. That's amazing.
Oh, well, thank you. I might be an insane person, but so that's my answer. Can I go with that?
Sure, but then it's just a conversation between two insane people.
I mean, it has been this whole time.
Dun dun dun! Surprise.
No, I think I've got a two-part answer to that, actually. That I have found over many years of trial and error that I actually thrive under the pressure of having so many things to do. So I have, it provides me with a variety of projects. So I'm never getting bored, or never, being like, I don't want to work on this right now, so I'm just not going to do anything. Right. I always have something that can be worked on. If I don't feel like writing this project, I can edit something. If I don't feel like editing something, I can do some formatting, or, I'm always working on different things. And deadlines are huge motivators. So, when it comes to the ghostwriting and the editing, my deadlines are provided to my clients, or by my clients. We discuss and agree on when these things need to be completed, and then I get paid. So it's
the good part, the best part,
right?
maybe.
Yeah,
depends on the book, though, I suppose.
Right. Well, other than the fact that I am writing for a living, which has always been my dream, the second best part is that I get paid, and so that keeps me very motivated as well. And then there were two parts to this, and so yeah, that having all the things to do and never letting myself get bored, having deadlines that just kind of, they stack on one on top of the other, and I somehow meet most of them. I'd say about 99% I meet, and then life happens, the other 1%, and I have to deal with it. But I think the biggest thing for me in terms of staying motivated and staying on top of all this stuff is just making it a habit, right? So like the waking up at 3:30 every morning thing. I heard about this from another. Actually, she started out as a client of mine, and now we're pretty close friends and writer buddies as well. She was waking up at 3:30 in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, to write before she went to work, and she had a different day job. She also has a toddler as well, and she told me that she was doing this, and I was like, you are the most insane person I've ever met in my life. Like, what is wrong with you? And she's like, yeah, I get my writing done though. And I didn't understand it until I realized that I didn't have enough time to do what I needed to get done. And I tried it, and it took me about 2 weeks to be able to get up consistently at 3:30 every morning. But now I do, and I tell people, hey, I get up at this time every day, and people look at me like I'm the most insane person they've ever met in their life. But it's so easy now, like it's just something I do. Same thing with writing. I'd get up at 3:30 and I start writing right away, and it just goes from there, and I'm doing it every day consistently. Yeah. I do it on the weekends too.
Okay.
That it keeps me in that zone of like, I'm writing. This is what I'm doing. It's a habit. It's just like any other.
No, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
I've been getting up pretty early, but maybe even earlier would be good. I mean, honestly, I don't have a lot of things in my day, but actually that's been part of my problem is more stuff intrudes the later the day goes on. So maybe it is the answer is even earlier. So I was getting up at 4:30, and I'm like, I just don't feel like there's enough time anymore. I'm barely awake by the time I can get I can barely get started writing before people are moving around in the house and stuff.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's a perfect time. Nobody's getting up for a while, hopefully.
Yeah, we should hope.
Oh my gosh. And it, at the end of the day, after my kid goes to bed, I'm pretty much useless anyways when it comes to using my brain. So like I can't stay up later than 9:30, right?
Oh wow, you don't get a whole lot of the sleep then, do you?
I mean,
if you're staying up till 9:30 and get up at 3:30, that seems like a little, but maybe you just don't need that much. I mean, that's a variety of things.
I don't think I do. 6 hours is 6.5. Maybe if I get to bed at 9, that's nice. 6.5 hours is good, and I'm good to go. I feel great. And I don't drink a lot of coffee, so there's that too.
Wow. So what you're saying is your brain is a medical miracle.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I am just, yep, I'm an anomaly, and everything's perfect over here.
Well, that's good to hear. So as far, it seems like you really weren't kidding when you said you were insane. All right. So no, but actually, I think I might have to try that. I might have to get up even earlier, get up in the dead of night.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Basically.
And you'll have to let me know. Yeah. Let me know how that goes.
Yeah, if I will. It's funny too because, but what you reminded me of was this will be. We'll just do this. I just want to tell this little story because when I was in college, I would still get up at 4 a.m. When I was a freshman. I would be getting up at 4 a.m. to write, but
Wow.
I'd go out into the commons to write. And when I did this one time, it was like maybe it was a little earlier than 4 even. I get up in the middle of the night, it's still dark. And I go into the comments, and there's a guy, one of the other people from the area is sitting there because he crushed his toe with a weight. And he's been sitting there for like an hour waiting for people to show up to take him to the hospital or something. I forget what it was, or for his parents to show up to take him somewhere so he could get his foot looked at. He crushed his toe with a weight, and it was so surreal that I still remember it. I was like, wow, I thought I was going to get some writing done. Instead, I sat and talked to this guy. It was one of the rare interruptions at that point.
That's cool. That would be a weird thing. I don't know if I would be a very cool person if I found somebody up in a space I plan to be in at 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I'd be very upset.
Luckily, I was kind of game at that point, and he was surprisingly cogent for someone who'd been up all night and in terrible pain, probably.
Man,
yeah.
wow.
So
I'm sure
anyway,
you helped him out.
That's what. Oh, I sure hope so. Anyway, so as far as no one's gotten their toe crushed today, so at least neither of us has. So, so what have you been reading lately?
Wow, what have I been reading lately? The last book that I just read was Stephen King's The Gunslinger. It's the first book in the Dark Tower series. Have you read this, Tim?
Yes, I have. I read the revised edition, and I know a lot of people complain about the first edition.
Yeah.
But what's your opinion on it?
I actually haven't read the revised edition. I think I should. So this is the 10th time I've read this book, and I started. So I have thus started my 10th journey through Midworld with Roland. And I'm so excited about it. I was doing, I do live Facebook videos every Wednesday morning on my Facebook page. And I have been doing a review giveaway series of The Dark Tower. And so it was 8 weeks because I skipped a week, 8 weeks of the 7 books in the series. And I was giving away one of my books and the actual Stephen King copies of the books I was reviewing that were in my office. So I have a giant hole in my bookshelf now from giving away 7 books, and I'm gonna have to buy some more. So I was doing all these reviews of each book, and interacting with my fans and fans of Stephen King, or at least the Dark Tower series, who have maybe, probably, hopefully become fans of my work too.
It seems like a good crossover, probably.
Yeah, it was very cool, and it was so much fun that I got so excited about the series I'd already read 9 times. I started The Gunslinger again, and I read that last week while I was on vacation. Yeah, I absolutely love that series. It's like,
okay. So I've heard many people complain about The Gunslinger, but I loved The Gunslinger, and I've only read the first 2 books.
What?
Yeah, I know I'm terrible. I actually think I started. Yeah, I have all the books because my brother left them here, but I don't. I've not read them all because I'm a terrible reader. I have ADHD and I'm very distractible.
Well, I get that 100%.
I read the first book a couple times, but the second, because I loved it, but I didn't get much further than that. It's weird.
It just keeps getting better. If you can make it happen, your life will change.
Well, I am looking to read a lot more in the near future, so this is got to go on the list.
Sweet, good.
This is the one where this is the episode where Kathrin tells Tim what to do, and he tries to do it. Let's see how that goes. All right, yeah.
Come back again and judge.
Yeah, for sure. We can check in later.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So as for me, I'm still reading I'm not reading very quickly because I've been bouncing around with a lot of other stuff. But the book I'm still nominally reading is The Warded Man by Peter V. Brett, and I really should put the pedal to the metal because I really like that book. It's high fantasy basically. It's kind of dark, but it's not super dark. I guess there is a lot of murder in it already by demons and stuff. So.
Ooh.
But like every night the demons burst out of the ground and they go hunting around for humans, and the humans who aren't behind wards, these magic circles you draw on the ground or whatever, get murdered. Pretty much nobody can survive outside of them at night. So it's like, okay, it's almost post-apocalyptic too. It's pretty cool.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, and then the main characters are, I think they all start off as children and in various really dark situations, across this place. This region, and it's really cool. It is, and it doesn't bounce around a super lot either, which I really like. Like it stays with one kid for 100 pages and then I'm really surprised. I was kind of surprised when we switched to a different one.
You're like, wait a minute, I've been what? Yeah,
it's great, and I really need to pick up. That's one of the reasons I want to pick up the pace reading, because there's 4 more books in this series, and I can't really just wait on this.
Don't read the first one 2 times already, 3 times.
Oh yeah, no. Now you're gonna rip on me for my reading habits. That's okay though. That's okay.
I had to.
I can live with that.
Hour. I had to.
Yeah, fair enough. I earned it.
All right.
So Kathrin, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. This is super fun.
Oh, great. And what have you? Can you tell people where to find your stuff on the internet?
Yeah, absolutely. My website is KathrinHutsonFiction.com. It's Kathrin, Hudson with a T. All my stuff is up there. Links to all my books, all the ebooks are available at pretty much every single retailer that you can think of. And you can buy paperback copies from me directly. So that's a thing from my website. And then I'm on Facebook at it's Kathrin Hutson Fiction. That's my page. Same thing with Instagram, and then Twitter at KLH CreateWorks. I'm all over.
Nice. Well, it's been great. And as for this show and for me, you can find more episodes at mentalcellarpublications.com. You can find my books at Amazon.com for the most part, except for Stormfleet and The Mangrove Suite. Those books are both available everywhere fine ebooks are distributed, and they're free. So check those out. Thanks for listening, everybody. And have a good week.
That tears it.